the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Wow! Good God, y'all! What is good for? Absolutely!
You are listening live to the Vito and Vito Show. Disrespectful to the executive branch.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
Don't sign the damn deal, and the president will...
Therefore, I do not believe that a majority can vote a man's life or property or freedom away from him.
And we're live here on the Vito and Vito Show. I'm Vito.
Yeah, I'm Vito.
I want to welcome everybody to the Vito and Vito Show. Check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com. Give us a follow, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Vito and Vito Show. We want to welcome everybody listening in right now to this program and allow my co-host to explain what you're listening to right here on the greatest show for millennial conservative politics.
We're bringing you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservative libertarians out of liberal hellhole Brooklyn, New York, where we are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, and individualism. We hold no punches on the show.
None whatsoever. We're going to have a great show for you tonight. We got a guest calling in, Vito, correct?
Yes, we do.
And his name is?
Vito.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. It's Christopher Logan. He's from Logan's Warning.
Ah.
He exposes, this is how beautiful this is, he exposes the truth behind Islam.
Oh, I love it.
So we're going to have a nice little discussion about how Islam is the religion of peace.
It's going to be a lovely, lovely show tonight. We're going to talk about that because we also saw this terrible thing that went down in Turkey. An attack at the Turkish airport. We're also going to go ahead and talk about Brexit. I know everyone is pretty much over this thing, but we didn't have a chance to fully throw our opinions into it. We got to talk about Brexit because I am ecstatic right now. Round of applause for the Brits for realizing their independence. They are free, Vito. They're free people. What do you think?
I support it. I do. But I don't think it's worth losing as much sleep as you did over it.
I was celebrating. I was drinking. I was
just looking for an
enjoying
excuse
myself.
to party.
Well, pretty much. But I was having a lot of fun, and I was very happy to hear about the Brexit results and especially what happened over there. So congratulations to the Brits. I'm happy that they're free, and I'm happy they followed in the model of the country that kicked their behind in 1776. I think it's beautiful. Isn't freedom sweet, Vito? Freedom is absolutely, absolutely sweet. And what else we got on the agenda tonight?
Actually, the Pentagon today announced that they're going to lift the ban of transgender people in the military.
Really?
That's right. So, gays can join transgender women.
Everybody's basically in this right now. I mean, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be fine. Do you think it's going to be fine?
It's fine as long as you do not lower the standards for which they need to join the military. You cannot be lowering standards and say, well, men have to do like 300 push-ups in 3 seconds and women only have to do 10. Or something, you know what I mean. You cannot lower the standards to protect this country.
Well, I think that's that's a true statement across the board. I think everybody should agree with that. But liberals probably are going to come around and give you a second dose of opinion. I'm going to talk about the other side to this too, because I was sort of torn on this issue about allowing all these different things into the military, different type of people. So I want to really see just what it means. Is it going to throw off military cohesion? Is it going to upset the battlefield? We're going to find out. We're going to talk about that later tonight on the show. But right now, we want to welcome everybody to the Vito and Vito Show. Check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com, and follow us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Vito and Vito Show. When is our friend giving us a call, Vito?
In a minute. Relax.
Any minute. All right, fine. Now I just want to
Take a
preface
second,
with this.
relax.
We saw what happened in Turkey. We saw what happened in of course, what happened in Paris. Don't forget San Bernardino. Don't forget the Orlando nightclub shooting. And it is radical Islamic extremism running amok in this country and across the world. Who's going to call it out? We're going to find out tonight. Why doesn't the president say anything?
Christopher Logan definitely understands this. He's also the president of the anti-Islam activist organization called North American Infidels.
Okay.
And here he is calling in right now.
That is true. He's giving us a call. Let's put him on the program right now. Ladies and gentlemen, as our sound guy gets everything set up, we are ready here on the Vito and Vito Show. We want to welcome Christopher Logan to the Vito and Vito Show. Sir, welcome.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me on.
Hey, it is great to have you here, Chris. We got to talk about what's going on in the world, specifically in regards to Islam. I got to get you. Now, you run this blog. You do some great work exposing the true nature behind the religion. My question to you is it only a minority of Muslims, or is it every Muslim in the world, or is there something wrong with the religion itself, the ideology?
Okay, the two-part answer. There was something very wrong with the so-called religion. If you read the Quran, you will see that it's a manual of war, which it's a political ideology, and the bottom line is it calls for subjugation of all or war on those who won't submit to Allah. Now, back to the part about is it every Muslim? Now, obviously, we can't say that every Muslim is violent, but you never know when they're going to turn violent. But they all support the violence because the Quran sanctions violence against non-Muslims, against non-believers, against atheists. So, and I've been speaking to Muslims for 12 years, and not one or two of them. I speak to them on a near-daily basis, as you see on Twitter, and literally not one of them will condemn any verse in the Quran, which makes them all part of the problem.
You see, that certainly is something that we all agree with. I mean, I haven't seen... We hear this all the time. Moderate Muslims are standing up to the evils of Islam. We hear this all the time. The evils of ISIS, right? We hear it on MSNBC. We hear it on CNN. Chris Cuomo runs around and says the same thing. Yet I never see Muslim organizations stand up and denounce a verse like this that says, strike terror into the hearts of the enemies of Allah. And the enemies of Allah is anyone who doesn't agree in the Quran. So like you said, atheists, Christians, Jews, they're all on the table, and they should be, apparently, according to the Quran, stricken with terror. So why is it that there are no moderate Muslims, really getting together in big groups? Because obviously not every Muslim is going to turn around and blow up a building, but how many of those Muslims are going to, like you said, is going to denounce the Quran, and at the same time, how many of those Muslims are going to stand up and organize and try to reform their own faith?
Well, it's like the mafia. It's like the mafia where you're either in or out. There's no in between. Now, you have so-called moderate Muslims. I don't know if you know of Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He's a regular on the Sean Hannity show. And it's hard to tell if he's in denial or he is lying. I've caught him in plenty of lies. But he says he's going to reform Islam. He's been so-called reforming Islam since 9/11, and he literally does not have one mosque in America that supports him. And every time there's a terror attack, and this is why I really appreciate you guys letting me come on the show and explain this, because no anchorwoman ever challenges him. There's a terrorist attack done by a Muslim. He comes on the news. He says it has nothing to do with Islam, and he says it has to do with Islamism. Now, to some people that might sound good, but if you break it down, there is no Islamism. There's only the Quran. And the Quran is the what? The book of Islam. And Zuhdi keeps the focus off of Islam itself and has people chasing after this fictional Islamism. And like I said, he keeps saying Islam's going to reform, and it's something people want to hear. People don't want to fight. People don't want to go to war, most people. So it sounds good. It's a feel-good fantasy. And if you would like me to explain why it's not going to reform, let me know.
Please, I would love to know. I mean, we hear this all the time. But one of my positions is maybe Islam has to get together, some type of council like the Vatican has to get together in the Middle East somewhere, and they got to hammer out some new details on the Quran. Tell me how it's not going to change. I'm dying to know how and why it can't.
Okay. First, I'm going to use the Quran to show why it won't reform. There's three theological strikes why it won't reform. Verse 1064 says the words of Allah cannot be changed. So what mere man is the Ummah going to respect enough to change the words of Allah?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. Then there's verse 3340. It's called the Seal of the Prophets, meaning that Muhammad was the last prophet and there are none coming after him. So Zudi can't turn around and say, I'm the next prophet, I'm changing the scriptures. Then I go on to verse 5.3, which says Islam is perfect. If it's perfect, how could you change perfection?
Mm-hmm.
And why would you if you're a Muslim? And this is a key point. If you want to debate Muslims and how to hang them in their own words, ask them if Allah was wrong in that verse. Is Islam perfect or not? And they will not go against it.
Well, I mean, the Quran and Islam itself is the only religion that makes the claim that it is the last of all the religions ever to come on this earth. It is the last and only religion. I've heard that Islam also means submit. Submit to Islam, right. Submit to Allah. So we got a lot of these problems going on, and I love how you detail that, because logically it doesn't make any sense for you to use the Quran and then try to reform it. I mean, what about this notion, right? It doesn't really make any sense. And I argue with kids on college campuses all the time who are big social justice people, and they will totally turn around and they'll call me an Islamophobe and a racist and all this other stuff. But then they don't have the I guess, the logic or the intellect to sort of look how you just basically outlined, that it doesn't make any sense to sort of reform this religion because it can't technically get done. So what do we say here when we're sitting on the situation where, like, there's good Islam and there's bad Islam? They believe, like, again, it's sort of an interpretational issue. The ISIS believes in obviously a bad version of Islam. We're the good Muslims. We know how this religion should be interpreted. Well, how do you know who's right? Because they're reading the same book that they're reading, and not for nothing, Osama bin Laden and the rest of these animals over in the Middle East have I think, a legitimate justification for committing the acts they do under the guise of the book that they are currently reading, which is the Quran. So what is the difference between the good and the bad Muslims, as they say this all the time to us?
I'm glad you brought that up, because ever since 9/11, basically Western policy has been that good Islam, as you said, is the savers from the bad Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we look across the West, where is that happening? Where is it happening? Australia, Britain, Holland, Denmark, France, Germany. It's not happening. If you focus on this issue and you pay attention, you see that all those areas, there's more Muslim or non-Muslim violence, and the countries they're being changed to suit Islam. So it's like saying good Nazism is going to save us bad Nazism. It's never going to happen. And if you go into this, there's good Muslims and bad Muslims. The way to refute that is to question them, as I said. None of them will condemn anything in the Quran. And one of the so-called good Muslim sects are the Ahmadi Muslims. The West is adoring them and, falling all over themselves. These guys are great. They're not violent. But there's little knowledge known about them. If you talk to some people that live in India and know the history of India and its bloody history with Islam, the Ahmadis helped create Pakistan, which shows when push comes to shove, they're looking for Islamic expansionism. It backfired on them because they're persecuted by other Muslims, but that has nothing to do with us. Now, they're on Twitter. There's Ahmadis doing a whole bunch of information, whatever, the misinformation war that they provide. And it's love for all, hatred for none. That's one of their hashtags, against extremism. And like I said, I go out of my way to speak to them, and I say, do you condemn the Quran verse 24:2, which calls for lashings, or 533, which calls for crucifixions? Now, this is barbaric stuff. Normal people don't support this, and even they won't condemn it. So if you want to they're extremists too. If you want to call a Muslim extremist or moderate, it's an extreme action to lash somebody 100 times. Or to crucify them.
Well, what do we hear this all the time too? Is the Bible? They pull out verses from the Bible, different things saying that it condones slavery and it condones other things like that. So, what's the difference between Islam, Christianity, Judaism, all the other holy books in the world that have some dark past?
The difference is the Bible is made up of stories of those times, and Jesus was the final message of Christianity. Mm-hmm. He didn't maim, he didn't murder, he didn't take sex slaves, he didn't go out and say kill unbelievers. The Quran, Muhammad was the final message. He took sex slaves. He was a murderer. He was a thief. And the Quran, verse 33:21, says to follow his actions for all time. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. Christianity, Jesus is the example to follow. Islam, Muhammad, the madman, is the example to follow, and that's another reason it will never reform, because for it to reform, you would have to take him out of the equation, and we all know that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, that if you take a look at the history of Islam itself, you take a look at the spread of Islam, it was done by conquest. It was done by enslaving other nations, enslaving other people. It was done by the sword of Muhammad. They say to live, like you said before, they said to live the life of Muhammad. Well, he was a murderer. He turned around and he was raping people. He was a pillager. He was absolutely out of control, and I don't think he's any figure that anybody wants to consider a great and holy man, or a good man for that matter. So I don't see where they get off on saying just how great Muhammad was. You can't compare him to Jesus Christ, because Jesus, if anything, died for the sins of his people, and you have somebody like Muhammad who really is just dying for what? He's spreading the word of Islam, but he's spreading it by force. Take it to another level. You just take a look at how Islam has been going throughout the centuries. Islam has been spread by force primarily. Islam is not done through persuasion. It was done historically. Take a look at the Bombay Pirates. You just go across the board and just take a look at the history of how Islam and the Caliphate, this notion of Sharia law to overtaking the land, has basically been a pillar in the ideology of Islam. So where do we go from here? How do we solve this issue in regards to the tyranny of Islam? Because it's been going on in the Middle East, and it's coming on this side of the shores. You take a look at Brexit. One of the reasons why Britain decided to leave the European Union was because of this ridiculous flood of Muslim migrants coming into the country and overturning their own, wiping out the culture of Britain. So, and it's coming here to the United States. Just look what happened in Orlando. So what do we do? Where do we go from here? How do we take on a religion that basically hates society today?
Well, the first thing is to keep spreading the truth and have more shows like your show, because we all know the mainstream media is protective of Islam. In the UK, no matter how much Islam seeps into the society, no matter how many terror attacks there are in the UK done by Muslims, their media protects it. The media is afraid to take it on. So without people like the two Vitos, we don't have a shot. That's the first step. Education is the first phase. Secondly, we need to stop feeding the Islamic beast, meaning we need to get off of Muslim oil. We don't need it, but the Saudis have the ear of our government for decades. They have our government, they've been making fools of our government for decades. We need a break from them. We need a complete divorce from these people. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a middle ground. Every once in a while something that happens, they'll say something that sounds good, and then things go back to normal, and they take our money, they fund mosques across America, and the mainstream media say, well, this is a radical mosque, this is a moderate mosque. They all read from the same book.
Right.
So they're not, unless they're taking verses out of the book, which I highly doubt they're cutting it up, they're all spreading hatred. And this is something most people don't want to face, that they're all spreading hatred and division.
We hear it also all the time, Chris, before we let you go. We hear it all the time that you have people who are sitting here, and again, they're cherry-picking parts of the Quran. They're not real Muslims, but honestly, they're all reading from the same book. Name me one Muslim country in the world as of today that does not have Sharia law, regardless of the severity, whether they have some Sharia law or like you have in Afghanistan where it's absolutely out of control in different villages and tribes. Explain to me why Muslims in the Muslim world, why is it that they all have Sharia law, follow Sharia law, and they are sick punishments that come directly from the Quran? Show me where that does not exist. It exists in every single Muslim country throughout the Middle East. And you know what? You have Muslim no-go zones in Britain. You're starting to get them in other parts of Europe. And it's only a matter of time till this Democratic administration or a lazy-to-do-nothing Republican administration lets Muslims have no-go zones in their own parts of this country. Chris, where can we find more about what it is that you do? Because I honestly, I love what you do. I heard of Pam Geller, right?
Yes, of course.
We love her. She was on the program. She spoke at Brooklyn College, where the other Vito goes to school. She spoke at Brooklyn. Yes, she spoke at Brooklyn College, and this happened the week she went there. Muslims showed up to denounce her. They screamed. It was an anti-free speech sort of movement from a lot of the Muslim students and others that are sympathetic to them, screaming and yelling at Pam Geller, telling her to get out of Brooklyn College. We don't want to hear your hatred. This is what we get. There's no free exchange of ideas, and we're happy to have you on the program, and we hope you get on other programs to spread the truth. Chris, where do we find more about what you do?
Oh, on my website, loganswarning.com, there's a section called Exclusive Reports. That's where I hit the streets. I go into Muslim neighborhoods, like in Brooklyn, Jamaica, Queens, and I film it and show how the neighborhood is being changed to suit Islam. You can catch me on the Facebook page, the North American Infidels page, or on Twitter if you want to see how I defeat Muslim propagandists on a near-daily basis whenever I'm speaking to them. The handle is NA Infidels on Twitter.
That's it, Christopher Logan. You're a superstar, and we want you back on the program.
Definitely,
we want to talk
definitely.
more. We love what you do. We want to talk more about this because you're in New York, I suppose, by your accent. Just taking a guess.
Sure, I'm here with you guys, and if there's ever a rally, yeah, my accent, you can't hide it.
Yeah.
If there's ever a rally, you guys want to put something together, I'm game.
Absolutely, that's what we should do, and we should do that honestly in the sake of the country. And in a way, sort of to protect ourselves and the future generations that come after us. Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for coming on. We hope to have you back soon.
All right, good fellas. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Chris Logan here. Vito, what did you think of that interview?
This guy knows exactly what the problem is with Islam, and this is what more people need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
This is the exact point why there's so much trouble in this world with Islam. I mean, Japan today, a higher court ruled that they can now just surveillance all of the Muslims in Japan. Now, there's some constitutional problems if you use that in the United States, but there are things that this president can do, such as use the words radical Islam.
Well, that's a start.
Yes, that's a great start. Using big words. He's a big boy. He can use words.
And, yeah, you're 100% right. Look, we're going to break. When we return, we're going to talk more about this issue. We'll talk about Brexit. And we're going to talk about the new policy by the entire military, Vito.
Yeah, but the Pentagon had a little announcement
Pentagon
today.
released something today saying that transgender, women, God knows what else you want to identify as, you're all welcome to join the military. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Don't go anywhere. We're going to find out right after this here on the Vito and Vito Show.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs, the California Society of CPAs, and the Ad Council.
Fighting the Common Core standards? Need a powerful tool to help inform others on this harmful education initiative? You're covered with Common Ground on Common Core, the collection of essays by 20 top education experts and activists. Reviewers call it the best single resource on the topic. You can share it with literally anyone. Order your print or digital copy of Common Ground on Common Core today. Just visit resoundingbooks.org. That's resoundingbooks.org. And get $2 off when you tell them Vito and Vito sent you. Paid for by Resounding Books Pack.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. Separated. We were able to get in touch with each other
and had
in no
idea
time.
how to find each other.
The whole experience was
was the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm
don't
and
ignore
keep to the
this
plan.
message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ReadyPA.org, brought to you by ReadyPA, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
And we're back here to the Vito and Vito Show. Check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com. Give us a follow. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Vito and Vito Show. We're talking about Islam. Vito's favorite religion.
Yes, the religion of pieces.
The religion of pieces, yes. The religion of pieces back at it again. So let's bring on our Islamic expert. We're going to bring on the kid named Connor. There we go.
Come on down.
There we go. He's coming on up, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Chris said he tweeted after that interview. So after that interview, Islam definitely declared war on the Vito and Vito Show.
Bring it on. I dare them. I dare any ISIS member
I'm
to come
proud.
after me. I am proud. I'm proud of any Muslim who is an extremist to come after me. And this is going to be a great fight. All right, we got Connor here. He's a Muslim expert. He just read the Quran, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Connor just read the Quran, and is it true you've converted?
It is true.
It is true.
That I will never do that.
All right, I see the beard coming in right now. All right, Connor, here's the deal. Give me the verse from the Quran that is the most scariest verse you've ever read in that book.
All right, well, there's a verse, like you said, your guest mentioned it, in chapter 5, verse 34. I can't recall it off the actual words offhand, but it does mention that the main ideas of, the jihad are that you have to go after people that are not Muslims and literally kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they run away, it specifically says this, if they run away, they're okay so long as they come back as Muslims. You don't have to kill them then. So long as they come back and say, okay, I'm not a Muslim. I mean, I am a Muslim now, and I'm not an infidel.
You're not an infidel?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
thank God.
I don't know. Is that peace? I don't know.
I don't know. We're back to the same old stuff again. We're sitting here and we're talking about, and this is the best part. They talk about Muhammad, or they talk about Islam and Christianity. They want to put them together, but they're not. They're two completely different things. They got two completely different things. Islam and Christianity. Christianity, if you take a look at the history of that religion, in terms of just look at the ideology first. The ideology of Christianity is pretty simple. Love your neighbor, you get the Ten Commandments, obey God. There's really no retaliation from another human being to another, right? You have the whole idea that God judges everybody,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Vito's the in-house Christian expert. Now, you take a look at Islam, and it's not a very difficult thing to see that it's commanding people to go after one another and kill them. Kill those who disagree with you. Take a look at ISIS. Take a look at the history of the caliphates by Muslims across the world, in the history of the world. And you just see the ever-growing power and the ever-growing influence it has over people. It really should scare a lot of people. It really should. Vito, I'm sitting here right now, and I am shaking in my boots because we are going backwards. History is repeating itself. We're back to another caliphate. That's really what we're doing right here.
I mean, if you just read the Quran, obviously read the English interpretation unless you speak Arabic.
That's another problem, too, with the damn religion, is that it tells you have to speak Arabic to really read the Quran. That's how you're really supposed to read it, not through the translations, because things get lost in translation.
Yeah, but you can't go from love your neighbor to chop them in pieces if they're not Muslim. That misinterpretation doesn't happen like that. So, little words, small things, some English words that aren't in other languages. I get it, but you can't misinterpret the entire thing to go from love to declaring war on the world. I mean, look right here. Chapter 5, verse 33, I think this is. It says, corruption is none but that they be killed or crucified, or that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, or that they be exiled from the land. That is for them to be disgraced in this world, and for them is that hereafter is a great punishment.
Yeah. That's obviously a nice thing to say of Thanksgiving, right? That seems like a very
And thank
homely
Allah.
sort of quote, right?
And I like to thank him for the food we're having.
I mean, this is the stuff that we're really worried about, and I encourage everybody to call in right now. Vito, what's the call-in number?
718-705-4469.
There you go. Call to that number if you're listening to the Thursday night broadcast, 8 p.m. on the Vito and Vito Show website, vitoandvito.com. You're allowed to call in, and we want to hear what you have to say. We are living in a time right now where we are going backwards, and it is scaring the bejesus out of everybody. And it should scare you, America, sitting at home right now. It should scare you, and it should scare your children. And really, I don't mean to be a fearmonger, but I'm not making this up. I mean, you see what's going on in the world. It's scary, scary stuff. Look, we got a caller calling in, matter of fact. I want to hear what he has to say, or she. So thanks for calling into the Vito and Vito show. What's your name, pal?
My name is JT.
What's up, JT?
I'm a friend of Chris's.
Cool, awesome. So did you hear the interview?
I sure did.
All right, JT, he was fantastic. He was on the ball. He knows his stuff. What do you have to say about what's going on if that interview and Islam around the world?
Well, I really feel as though we're back in the first century again, where Christians are being persecuted in just horrific numbers, simply because they believe in Jesus Christ and they worship Jesus Christ. You look at the Middle East, you look at what ISIS is doing, crucifying children and beheading children in front of their parents and vice versa. And to top it all off, what has President Obama done about any of it?
Well, that's
Answer, zip.
He doesn't mention the words radical Islam. He doesn't equate anything to Islam. Loretta Lynch a couple of weeks ago said we'll never know the true motives of the Orlando killer. She doesn't want to equate that with Islam. I mean, really, it's an embarrassment because the rest of the world is looking at the United States and the leadership here and is laughing. ISIS is laughing at us instead of being afraid of us. They are hysterically laughing because all they see is a government that is kowtowing in the name of political correctness to a religion and its fanatics who do not like us as human beings. They can't stand the way we live. They can't stand the way we dress. They can't stand what we eat. They want us dead. They want us taken over. They want us submitting to an Islam, a religion that's out of control, and they want us submitting to a God that is just jealous and out of his mind and just crazy. You take a look at the Quran, you know what I'm talking about. So JT,
exactly.
Go ahead.
And what really drove me nuts is when that first American was beheaded, the journalist. Obama came on. He read a canned speech in the most irritated tone of voice, like we interrupted his golf game. And 8 minutes later, he's back on the course with Alonzo mourning. What about the mourning of this kid's parents?
Yeah, you know what, JT? You're 100% right, and I appreciate you for calling in. Sorry we got to cut it short, but we got to move on. Thanks for calling in, brother. Hope you keep listening.
Thanks.
Thanks, man. And he's 100% right. We're sitting here dealing, Vito, with the problem of the president not even caring. He's back on the golf course after the terrorist attacks. This is not we see, and it's not just terrorist attacks in general. His priorities are all messed up. This idiot's changing the White House's colors from regular red, white, and blue. I haven't seen that in the White House, but I do see rainbow-colored flags to symbolically celebrate gay marriage. This president, when officers are killed, remember the 2 officers, Vito, in New York? Remember that? The 2 officers who were shot by a crazy Black Lives Matter protester because Mayor de Blasio, Comrade de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, who is out of control, God, somebody pray for us, please, we live here, is out of control, pushing hatred and anti-cop sentiments throughout this city. What happened, Vito? Did President Obama show up to the funerals of those 2 officers who were shot by a Black Lives Matter protester? No. But what did President Obama say? He said if he had his son, he would look like Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or who the hell knows, some low-life criminal. So I want someone to call out the truth here, and it's either going to be me, it's going to be Rush, it's going to be Sean Hannity. Someone's got to call it out, and I hope we all keep calling it out, because the more and more this president stays in office, the more and more ridiculous we look as a nation.
I mean, they even censored the French president's speech when he came here.
Yep.
They censored out radical Islam.
Don't forget, they also censored the Orlando shooter's phone call to 911 when he said that he pledges allegiance to ISIS. Well, I don't know how the Obama administration had this power, but they went back into the Florida Police Department and they omitted anything that could, trigger radical Islam. Anything that could lead towards the notion that Islam is responsible for the attack. Well, they went ahead, they took out ISIS, they took out radical Islam, they took out Allah. You believe this?
So when people talk about how the president has no sympathy or ties to radical Islam or anything like that, it's hard to deny that when you see this administration going out of its way to block those words.
Yep.
To exactly never say radical Islam. We'll never know who did the attack. Except the guy said, I am with ISIS, I'm a radical Islamist. He's saying it. That's me. No, you're not. No. No.
I mean, yeah, you're 100% right, but I'm just still tired, of this notion that Islam has nothing to do with this. Islam, it's not just this guy didn't just hate gay people. There's something there. There is something in that religion, and it's not that hard to find.
I get you might hate gay people, but nobody hates gay people so much that they're going to shoot up the place. Listen, there have been hate crimes. There have other things have happened. But that factor of being influenced and converting to radical Islam, that is a major force. That's primary. Mm-hmm. You don't say, well, he hated gay people. No, he was gay. All right, he had problems. But that doesn't happen.
It doesn't. I don't see it
to that
happening.
Degree.
And for people that go ahead and they blame the Catholic Church, people that blame Christianity, other religions, Judaism, they pull out some random example of some crazy Christian guy in the mountain somewhere in Afghanistan or wherever the hell they are, and they're, committing some crimes. Those very, very, or the Westboro Baptist Church, matter of fact, here in the U.S., those are small minorities that are denounced by a majority of the Christian religion. The Vatican is denouncing them. I don't see the Pope calling for the death of millions and millions of Muslims or Jews or whatever.
Yeah, that's not in the Bible. That's not what Christ said. That's not what the Christian church is saying. That's not what a vast majority of Christians are saying. But we have a lot of these Muslims doing this. And
a lot of Muslim imams, a lot of Muslim faith leaders.
And I do not see any moderates or anyone saying this is wrong, except for, of course, the liberals and the Obama administration.
Of course.
Who's not saying, well, he's not Islam. We'll never know who did it. He's telling you. Then somebody said, well, the media is just saying it's them just so they can scare us. What? Is this a scary movie? They like scaring us?
It's embarrassing, and really we got to wake something up. Look, we got to move on from this topic. I know you love it, so check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com, for more information on radical Islamic extremism. All right, Vito.
Guess what, Vito?
What?
Britain, they left. They're gone. It's
They're
over.
gone. They're out of the EU. I'm ecstatic. Congratulations, Britannia. It sails again. They are free. And really just to tie into the topic that we were talking about before, everyone knows about this. If you don't, come at it from in the Iraq, because the British people voted last week to leave the European Union. They don't want to be a part of it. They're tired of the globalism. They're tired of the big merchant banks. They're tired of all that stuff. And really one of the big reasons why the British people are so happy and to be free, and one of the reasons why they left, was because, again, we could tie this back to radical Islamic extremism and the Muslim migration, and you have the refugees coming in from the Middle East. They're bringing their extremism with them. They're bringing their religion and all of its Sharia law with them, and they're instituting it on the British people, and the British government is letting them do it, and it's unfortunate. Nobody is standing up to the religion of peace, and I find it hard to believe that we're going to continue to stay on this track, and no one's going to do anything about it. Well, thank God Britain woke up and they said something about this. They rose up. They said they want their country back. They want their borders back, and they can stop bringing in and trafficking millions upon millions of migrant Muslims who seek to overthrow the British people and their way of life. So, Vito, I got to ask you this, because this is just it's just all happening so fast. Are other nations going to leave the EU? Poland and Germany and France. How about these other nations?
I don't know about some of the smaller nations, but I definitely think England is setting an example. They're being the leaders in this. And this isn't crazy. People, the stock market crashed. I think the Dow was down 600 points the day after. People jumping out windows. Listen, they only joined the EU how many years ago?
Well, this is...
It wasn't like they were always in the EU, or England collapsed. It's not like a country economically completely destroyed. Okay, they left the EU, they're going to be fine. Okay? They didn't even, even when they joined the EU, they still used the pound.
Of course.
So
they never joined the euro.
So this isn't drastic. What really shocks me more is that the number one searched phrase on Google in England during the election was, "What is the EU? What did I just vote for?"
That's ridiculous.
So, okay, listen, great they left, but I would like them to know what they're voting on before they vote.
I don't know. I know a lot.
What did I just do, Google?
Well, I mean, you take a look. It was a very close election. I think it was like 51-48.
That's what they did when they voted Obama in.
It was a close election. But when you look at what the EU is about, it's about a foreign European government making rules about immigration into other European countries. They have European citizenship. You're able to travel from country to country without any problems. So pretty much you have this freedom of movement. And we see a lot of this is regulations coming down to other nations and businesses, and other regulations being imposed on governments, and money being sucked out of the of European countries to go to the EU, which is basically a big central planning board, a whole separate system of government that the British people never really voted for. The EU is by itself. It is an outside bureaucracy. The bureaucrats have been stood up to, and small government wins, Vito. You never hear small government winning. It is a thing which people never hear. Small government winning is some of the hardest things to ever accomplish. You'll never get small government to win. It's always easier to grow the size of government because all you have to do is just add more stuff. It's hard to take away from what people find dependent on. So, I mean, this is what we're living in right now, and I'm happy to see the British people rise up. But, we're going to go to break.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. Just not here. We don't have a queen. I don't want no queen. We already got some ridiculous king in the White House, but he's gone soon, I think.
Hopefully.
When he decides to stay. But when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a lot of what the young people did. You're going to love to hear what the young people did. They were so against. The majority of the young people in Britain were against leaving. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to remain in the EU. Why? Because they, quote, said they are European. They're not British. They're European. I want to talk about the crumbling of citizenship and nationalism, and why you should be proud to be, especially on this July 4th weekend, why you should be proud to be an American. We'll be right back after this here on the Vito and Vito Show.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save
your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel? Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs, the California Society of CPAs, and the Ad Council.
Fighting the Common Core standards? Need a powerful tool to help inform others on this harmful education initiative? You're covered with Common Ground on Common Core, the collection of essays by 20 top education experts and activists. Reviewers call it the best single resource on the topic. You can share it with literally anyone. Order your print or digital copy of Common Ground on Common Core today. Just visit resoundingbooks.org. That's resoundingbooks.org. And get $2 off when you tell them Vito and Vito sent you. Paid for by Resounding Books Pack.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ReadyPA.org, brought to you by ReadyPA, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
We're back on the Vito and Vito Show. Check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com. Give us a follow, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Vito and Vito Show. Two millennial conservative libertarian college students talking about the world around them. All right, I want to go back to Brexit real quick before we get to forget about it moments of the week. like we said before the break, one of the big reasons why, and you look at the votes and the tallies and whatnot, a majority of people who wanted to remain in the EU, because we all know about Brexit, when the British people voted to leave the European Union, a majority of young people, that's from 18 to 35, 40, they wanted to stay in the EU. And then everybody else, which is from, I guess, 41 on to 80 or whatever, like a lot of the old generations, wanted to leave the EU. And CNN was running stories, and you had different reporters running stories, talking about how the British people, the young people, are being robbed of their future. They're not able to celebrate their association with Europe. And I said to myself, this is ridiculous. Whatever happened to being proud of the country where you came from? It doesn't exist anymore. And I remember The Guardian put out a video. And we'll link it to the website and on our social media pages. The Guardian put out a video of young people telling why they should vote to remain in the EU. And one of the reasons, the biggest reason, was that they wanted to feel more. They are European, not British. They're European. So it was this notion of cultural.
I'm North American.
Yeah, I mean that's such BS. You're not a continent. You're a country within a continent. You're not the same as a person from Germany. You're certainly not the same as a person from Poland. You are your own person. And it really should, your own nation, should I say. And it's gone, Vito. That idea of nation association, of associating yourself with the current nation and its heritage and its country and its ideas and its history, it's out the window, especially with the young people. So they're voting for globalism. These are the same young people, by the way, who are going to complain about how the banks are screwing them over, how there's income inequality, the same progressive line of BS that if they had a brain, they would trace it back to the government and the Federal Reserve and its central banking powers, as opposed to the greedy businessmen.
Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable to think that how many of these young kids they think they're so much bigger as a Europe. See, that's what the Euro did. They brought Europe together as one country. And that whole unity, that whole coming together, that whole one, less individualism,
right,
really does sound more communist than anything.
I think that's really a good direction to go in, because that's really what it is. It's an association with this globalization of what's going on around them. And let's also keep in mind, who's bailing out Greece, other European countries in the EU? So why is Britain stuck with the tab for a country that's overflowing in debt? Why is Britain stuck with the tab with a country like Italy that's overflowing in debt, or Portugal or Spain? Why? What happened to their freedom? Or whatever happened to the notion of consent of the governed? We have 4th of July coming up, and we should be proud to be. I'm damn proud to be American. You should be proud too, Vito.
Of course.
Good. You should be proud to be an American. You should be proud to associate yourself with the ideas of a nation, if they're right. Let's make that very clear, because there is a right and wrong here. You can't turn around
the founding of this country and what this country is truly made of.
Of course,
not today's government.
No. Well, the government doesn't, I think, represent a nation. I think really it's the ideas of the people. So you have the ideas of consent of the governed, decentralization, liberty. I think a lot, even the EU, they sort of support those ideas. In Europe, they support those ideas, specifically Britain. But it's gone now. Thank God they got it back. Thank God they fought their way back from the abyss of bureaucratic tyranny. Because they damn as well needed that. They needed their freedom back, and I'm happy they got it. And I certainly hope that the EU, now they have to invoke Article 50 of the EU Charter or Constitution or whatever they have over there to sort of start the process of getting rid of an association with the European Union. The question is, when are the British politicians going to do that? David Cameron even stepped down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does that tell you? This was such a shock. Such a shock. And in terms of economics, we saw the Dow jump down or go down 60 points.
600?
600, thank you. Not to worry. Not to worry. It's a short-term loss. It'll come right back up. It's no big deal. The country's not crumbling, even though there are fear tactics going on by the Remain side. But I'm happy that the Britain is free, and we should move on. All right, forget about it. Moments of the week right here on the Vito and Vito Show.
Forget about it?
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Paul, forget about it.
Forget about it. Moments of the week here on the Vito and Vito Show. We break down some of the craziest moments in the world. And we have a saying in Brooklyn. It's called Forget About It. So, Vito, what's the first Forget About It moment of the week?
Ready for this? A brawl broke out at a Dallas Mexican restaurant that got millions and millions of views online once somebody recorded and released it because they fought over. They wanted green salsa instead of red salsa. So somebody started throwing punches, and there's a gigantic brawl and food fight broke out of this Mexican restaurant.
People getting a fight over guacamole?
Yeah.
Or salsa, whatever it was?
Salsa. They wanted green salsa instead of red salsa. I mean, you ever get into a food fight before?
I never did. I was civilized.
No, in 4th grade, somebody threw something, so I thought it'd be funny to yell food fight, like in the movies.
Right.
I didn't think it was actually going to start a food fight.
You really got into a food fight? I thought that was just like an 80s thing. I didn't know that was a serious thing.
I reenacted an 80s movie, which I always wanted to do. So I got that done when I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
I got into a bunch of trouble with my teacher. But she promised, she's like, if you tell me what happened, you won't get in trouble. I told her what happened, I got in trouble.
They lie.
They lie. Like the government.
Look at that. They're like a chain of command here. But, listen, whatever. They got into a fight over salsa. Did you see the video of a woman who didn't get her EBT card working?
Mm-hmm.
This big woman.
Trashed the place.
She trashed the place. She turned it upside down. She didn't get her EBT card to go through. She wasn't able to buy groceries with her EBT card or food stamps card. And she turned it into a hellhole. She was just screaming and yelling. And you ask yourself, what the hell's wrong with people?
This is why people should have guns.
I think so. I think if you had a gun, people would.
Because the store owner, I would have pointed right at it and said, walk out of the store,
Yep.
or you're going to lose a leg.
Yep. Because you know what? You probably save yourself. We hear this a lot, too, by the gun activists like ourselves. We're like, hey, if you have a gun, you can stop the criminal from committing more crimes. Well, if you have the gun, if gun owners had guns, other people's had guns, you could stop a lot of the damage that's being done to your property. If you have a woman that comes out and she's breaking your store because her EBT card don't work, you pull a gun on her, she's going to be like, all right, I'm going to stop trashing the store. Saves the business owner money and everybody's happy. Next, forget about it a moment.
Dr. Pearson he predicts now that women, by the year 2025, will be having more sex with robots than they do with other men.
Sex with robots is a thing on the show with you, huh?
It keeps popping up.
Whatever.
I mean, wherever I look and it pops up, and I say, what? By 2025, more women will be having sex with robots than they do with men.
Unbelievable.
Which, I think, you can count towards what we would call the pussification of the male society.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more, it's not just, sex, it's also relationships. People have thrown away relationships now for this idea that it's all meaningless. There's no meaning anymore to any sort of a relationship, or sex is meaningless. That's really what we're walking into. And we're also walking into the culture also where people aren't allowed, this is what's baffling me too, is that there's so many feminists out there who, women have this superiority complex over men all of a sudden. And, they are their own independent women, and they stand on their own 2 feet and all this stuff, and they don't need a man. And, of course, you have a lot of liberal men out there who are like, they're young, and they're going to probably be liberal, aside from us. And a lot of them are going to also say, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm a feminist, too.
I'm a feminist, too.
I go sleep with your robot.
That's really what it is. There was an article, I think it was on Vanity Fair or something. It was the most, or the New Yorker. It was the most disgusting article I have ever read. Have you seen this article?
Explain to me.
All right, this article is so bad, it's unbelievable. The article basically says that, you ready for this? That men and women, there was a man and a girl, a woman, husband and wife. The husband allows his wife to cheat on him, because she feels more of an independent woman to go out and sleep with other men, then come back in the middle of the night, jump in bed with the husband. She says she loves him, and he's like, he knows that he loves her, but it's okay if she goes out and cheats on him, because she just needs to, she's a woman, she's independent, she needs to let it all out. And the husband's home taking care of the kids. And I'm like, where the hell is your manhood? What happened to masculinity in this damn country?
Where's your common sense?
Where's your common sense? What's wrong with you? Letting your wife go sleep around with the whole neighborhood, and you're not standing up and doing anything about it?
And you get stuck with the kids?
Yeah. That's ridiculous. I think it's on Vanity Fair. Let me pull up the article. In the meantime, go to the third forget about it a moment.
In Texas, there's a place called Immortal Village, where all these scientists have stored over 50,000 dead bodies, and they're going to use science to bring them back. And no, I'm not reading the plot from Frankenstein. Yeah, in Texas, Vito. They can bring bodies back to life using science.
All right.
So
we're moving on here.
Great. So sex with robots and bringing people back to life does not seem good in the future.
Why not? Hey, you bring people back to life. It's like that movie.
You think they want to come back? Somebody could probably be having a great time in heaven right now, doing whatever they want, and then back to heaven in some guy's immortal village in Texas. Like, what happened?
We're stuck in the same. Listen, I can't anymore. I can't. The world is crumbling, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, here's a little tip for you, if you take a look at the polls, Donald Trump right now, he put out a poll on his Instagram, going back to the presidential race, because that's still going on. Donald Trump, I think he's up right now, I think 44-39, Rasmussen poll.
Right, but I think a Rasmussen poll also released that he has 1% polling with black people. 1%.
It's certainly gonna take a while. All right, we're gonna see where this goes here. We are going to see where this goes. But I know you have that thing. I didn't get the bumper yet, but we're gonna get it soon. We have the Quran quote of the week, right? This is a new addition to the show.
Yes, we said it before, but I'll pull it up.
All right, go ahead. As Vito pulls up the Quran quote of the week, we want to thank you for listening to the Vito and Vito Show. Check out the website, www.vitoandvito.com. Come back every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time at www.vitoandvito.com to hear more of us talking. If you like us. If you don't, well, take a walk. Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Vito and Vito Show. And,
ready for this?
Stick around. Go ahead, Vito. What do we got?
In the Quran, chapter 2, verse 216, fighting is prescribed for you, and ye dislike it, but it is possible that ye dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you love a thing which is bad for you. But Allah knoweth, and ye not know.
I don't know.
He's saying you gotta go fight even though you don't like it, but Allah knows everything you don't.
We're back to the situation again. I don't know. I don't know.
Go read the Quran, kids.
Yeah, you really should. You learn a lot from that book in terms of just where these people are coming from, and it should really scare you. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to the Vito and Vito Show. Check back with us next week in Brooklyn.
It's nothing but the truth.